Hi guys, Geoffrey here. First of all, Happy New Year to all you guys. And in this video, I want to talk to you about a topic I've been thinking about for the last month or so, as I see a lot of you in this new year considering this question, which is, should you keep going or should you stop fighting for your relationship? And when do you know when you should keep going, and how do you know when you should stop? And I want to bring up this topic because I see a lot of people either prematurely giving up and giving up at what should be actually the most opportune time and the most crucial time that actually can lead to a massive turnaround in their relationship. And these are key principles that a lot of my clients have come to understand. And because they understand this, they don't give up in these key moments. And because they don't give up in these key moments, as you'll see later, they really start to gain massive results and that hockey stick effect really, really fast in their relationship as well. So in this video, I want to talk to you about the key questions you need to ask yourself before you give up on fighting for your marriage, for your long-term relationship, etc. And in case you're new to this channel, my name is Geoffrey and I help men in long-term relationships or in marriages with the right skills and knowledge to be able to design a thriving relationship by yourself. So if you want more content on this topic, be sure to subscribe to this channel and also click that bell button as well to be notified when I post new videos every single week. And before I begin this video, again, in 2022, the masterclass on the 5 proven steps to rebuilding your relationship from the ground up is still open. So if you want to join me in the masterclass or if you want to apply for the Relationships Revel program, be sure to stick around to the very end of this video for the announcement on how you can join both those things. So the first question you want to ask yourself here is, are you giving up because you're losing? And the key image that I have here is almost like adults throwing tantrums when they're losing. So sometimes you go to baseball games, little league baseball games, and you see this kid who is losing the game. And when this kid is losing the game, he will just throw down his bat, throw a tantrum and say, screw this, I hate baseball. It almost reminds me of that scene with Cartman where he says like, screw you guys, I'm going home. And I feel like while we don't do this so blatantly like kids do, sometimes when we're in the process of fighting for a relationship, and we are lost into the process or how to even save the relationship and we're losing, we also can throw this mini tantrum in our minds and we give up. We convince ourselves that we need to give up at this moment. Now, the thing you need to understand though is that this is actually a terrible time and a terrible reason to give up as well. And the first reason behind that is, we need to understand here that there's really 3 levels of success in life, in anything, in whether it comes to relationships, whether it comes to work, career, etc. There's always the 3 levels of success. So let's break this down a bit. So level 0 is when you are in this position of the lack of success. This is when you are pretty much lost as to what the problems are, why the problems are happening, and how to solve the problems. You are lost as to the diagnosis, you are lost as to the process to fix it as well. And the truth is that for a lot of people who give up during the moments when they're losing like this, they're doing this at this level 0. They don't really understand how to manufacture great and healthy relationships. And that's the reason actually why their relationship degraded in the first place, but also because they don't understand the principles, they don't know how to build it back up again. People who give up at the level 0 stage, what they're hoping to do is to get to level 1, where they are in this position what we call the failure success. And failure success is when you can get a certain outcome, but when you get that outcome, you're not really sure how to manufacture or how to replicate that outcome that you're getting. So the example here is almost like a business person who suddenly has a thriving business, but he really doesn't understand why or how or what he did to make this outcome. And the problem here, if you give up at level 0 and you just say, it's easier to start a new relationship and I want to give up on this one, is that you're hoping here that the next relationship would somehow magically just work out better than your current relationship. And so you're really relying on what we call failure success. You want the success, but you're not really interested in learning how to manufacture your success. And the problem with failure success here is that this leaves you in a very anxious state. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, for example, who have very successful businesses right now, but they don't really know how to replicate it. So they always sleep with one eye open because they're always thinking, oh, at any time, this business can go down the drain because I don't know the mechanics, the factors that's leading to the success. The same thing in relationships. If you rely on this, if you are happy and content with failure success, you're always going to be in this anxious state where you don't really know if this is going to last or not. Now, to graduate from level 1, we need to go through what we call successful failure, which is when we're failing, we're making mistakes, but we're learning from it. We chose to learn from it. And this is the necessary bridge again from number 1 to later number 3. But for us to learn here, we need to first really understand what it means to look within and not play victim. And so when things are tough, when you are losing, this is actually the perfect opportunity for you to get to level 2. All right, so while a lot of people give up when they're losing and they throw this tantrum, the real successful ones are the ones who look at this opportunity, look at this moment, take this opportunity to really dig deep and really learn what they need to learn, really humble down. Now, level 3 here is what we call successful success. And level 3 is when you are getting an outcome that you want, but here the difference is that you know exactly how to replicate that outcome and how to replicate it every single day for 5 years, for 10 years, for 15 years, and you know how to keep building it. And this is the kind of success that actually feels the best. You feel most at peace here because you are getting the outcome you want, but also you can replicate that success over and over again because you understand the principles behind the success. Now, back to the main point though, is that you cannot go to level 3 and attain this peace, this sense of confidence, if you give up at level 0. If you give up at level 0, you're always going to be stuck at level 0 and 1. But you never get to level 2 or 3. So this is actually the worst time for you to give up. And the worst time for you to give up is when you're losing, really. That's the number 1 reason. The second reason is that understand also that if you never graduate from to level 2 or 3, the same problems will always keep coming up until you learn the lesson. So a lot of people at this point will say, well, I don't have to keep fighting when I'm losing because I can just get a new relationship. That's an easier way out if I just get a new relationship. And you might justify this decision by blaming your partner, etc. But a lot of people often find that they replicate the same problems over and over again. And just to show you a bit of a story from my life, before my existing relationship that is thriving right now, I used to have a series of failed relationships. And for those failed relationships, I always said to myself, oh, it's the other person's fault. Oh, they had an affair, right? They weren't committed. They didn't know how to communicate. It was always them. So the underlying issue behind all the failed relationships was that they weren't really invested in me. And I would always tell myself, well, if they don't care about me, why should I care about them? And so I kept using that justification to keep finding new relationships and new relationships on top of another. But each time I found a new one, I found the same problem. They weren't really that committed to me. Now, the manifestations of how they're not committed to me may be different, but at the end of the day, they weren't committed to me. And until I realized that it wasn't them, it was me. I wasn't able to create safety. I wasn't able to create the right environment, the right culture in a relationship to where they can feel like invested in me. So at the end of the day, the same problems will keep coming up in my relationship, and they kept coming up until I learned that, hey, this is the lesson I needed to learn. And until I learn the lesson, I'm going to keep having the same problems, the same mistakes over and over again. And the same thing here is that if you give up when things are tough, when you are losing, you are basically saying no and rejecting the key lessons that you actually need to learn at that point. And that's a massive shame as well. And number 3 here is that this is exactly the reason why your partner is hopeless. If I look at a lot of my clients and the reasons why their partner has given up and feels super hopeless, especially in a long-term relationship or in a marriage, is because nothing destroys safety more and the culture of the relationship more than being with someone who crumbles under pressure, who crumbles when they're losing. Right now you're losing. And if you're giving up, if you lose yourself when you're losing, then that just proves your partner right, that you haven't really grown. You're not really the person who can create the deep sense of safety because it's really hard to feel safe with someone who crumbles so easily like this. And so I really want you to understand the paradox that you're falling into when you give up at this very opportune time. Now, the second question to ask yourself here is, are you giving up because your partner has told you there is no hope? So a lot of people, they're what we call tethered to their partner, tethered to circumstances. Now, when you do this, think about the lack of genuineness, the lack of commitment, and the lack of permanence you're communicating to your partner here. So imagine that you've been promising to your partner that you will change no matter what. You'll go through this journey of internal work no matter what. And of course, she's questioning you. She's suspicious. Okay, this guy probably has said this many times before, but every time he says this, he doesn't deliver with actions. He never delivers with actions. So why should I trust him now? And so she subconsciously tests you by saying, you know what, there's no hope. Forget about trying. And as soon as she says that, you stop. You get demotivated. Well, that just proves her right. because it shows that you're not really motivated to do the process of changing yourself for the right reasons. You're doing this to manipulate her into coming back and not really doing it for the genuine reasons that you want to change and you see your actual flaws and you want to change. And it shows here that most likely because you don't enjoy the process of changing and you don't have a good reason behind changing, and that your reasons for changing is so conditional, that when your partner, let's say, comes back to you, that you will give up on the process anyway. For the same reason that right now, when the hope of an outcome is taken away from you, you are giving up as well. Because your motivation for changing is so dependent on an outcome. And again, the important thing to note here is that you cannot fake or you cannot hide your tetheredness. This is something you feel deep down. And you can say all the things you want to show your commitment, to state your commitment. But again, this tetheredness will show through the micro expressions, through the micro tones that you have, through the micro actions that you have. And it's really hard to hide this. And your partner can sense this from a mile away. And so again, just to reiterate, when you give up now, when you give up when your partner tells you there's no hope, after especially you've been promising her that you're going to change no matter what, that will just simply confirm her decision that there is no hope. Do you see the paradox here? Do you see the hidden message, the underlying message that you may be giving when you give up at this opportune moment as well? And so now, if you make this mistake of giving up at this very key moment, the next time you promise her something, she will think, no, there's just no evidence that I should believe that. It'll be much harder for her to believe you every single time you do this. So before you give up at this moment, just think again. Number 3 to ask yourself is, are you giving up because you can't handle the tough truths? So I get a lot of people who say to me, Jeff, I want to give up on this relationship because I discovered my partner was having an affair. I discovered my partner never really loved me. I discovered my partner is doing all these things. I discovered my partner is actually stonewalling and gaslighting and she's being abusive to me, etc., etc. Now, when you say this, what you're really saying is that I'm giving up because I'm not really bulletproof enough. So I want you to think about this from your partner's perspective here. When she tells you about an affair, when she tells you about the tough truth, her feelings about you, her real feelings about you, how angry she is at you, and so on, what is actually happening here is that she's finally telling you the real truth, the raw truth. And she's probably telling you now the thing she's been penting up in her soul for a very long time. The thing that's been causing her to want divorce and to want to leave the relationship, to feel hopeless, to catch 22 again. She's been penting it all up and now it's coming out. And so when you give up at this moment, what you're really doing is you're telling her, this is how I handle the truth. When the tough truths come out, I will not be able to handle it. I don't know how to handle it and I will give up. And so understand here that when you create this culture where you are not bulletproof enough to really handle the tough truth, to really handle the difficult news from your partner in a relationship, this problem is exactly why the safety is broken from your relationship in the first place. Because it's really hard to feel safe to talk to someone who can be rattled very, very easily. And again, when your partner feels this lack of safety, you'll put your partner through this very hopeless state. And we talk about this a lot, so I'm going to link a video down below this video to a video about emotional safety and why it's so crucial. And it's that without emotional safety, you're putting your partner in a very hopeless state where she might be very unhappy in the relationship. But she loses if she shares it, because again, you will react in this way. But she will also lose if she doesn't share it, because nothing will get resolved. And this hopelessness is what really causes divorces, not really the promise itself. So again, I'll put a link down below to that video again. So again, when you finally discover the tough truth in your relationship, and that's the moment when you give up, that will tell your partner everything she needs to know. Is that, okay, if this is how he handles the truth when it finally comes out, I was right. I shouldn't have told him this whole time about what I actually felt. And I was right to actually bottle it up. And I was actually right to feel embittered by it. And I'm actually right to feel like I need to walk out of here because I will lose no matter what. I'm losing now that I shared, and I'm going to lose if I don't share as well. And I have been losing if I don't share as well. So something to think about there. Now, question number 4 to ask yourself is, are you giving up out of anger, out of blame, and out of a lot of bitterness towards your partner? And to understand why this is a very important question to ask yourself is, we need to understand how victims and how leaders operate. So leaders, they always, if you look at leaders anywhere you go, they always look within first, and then after they look within, they look without. For example, in my business, if let's say my employee is unhappy working for me, the last thing I would say to myself is I would say, oh, it's because of their fault. But the first thing I would ask is, okay, what flaws did I have? What mistakes did I make in creating the right culture? Did I create the wrong culture? If let's say my partner has an affair or wants to get out of the relationship, does not get invested in the relationship. The last thing I would say is, it's your fault, but the first thing I would say is, what did I do wrong? What was missing in the culture? Was I not able to create the right culture, etc.? So, and if you look at good leaders of big companies, of respectable leaders, they always do this. They always look within first and look at what their contribution was before they look outside. While if you look at victims, they always look without first, and then once they look without, they find a reasons there, they never look within. And you see this a lot with people in relationships where as soon as a problem comes up, their partner cheated or whatever it is, instantly they blame the other person. And once they blame the other person, they will say, okay, I can see so many reasons because they're non-committal, they're narcissistic, and you see so many videos about blaming other people like this. And once you find the certain reasons of why they're cheating, for example, you will never find the need to ever look within. And for these people, short term, they feel good about blaming their problems on other people like this. But in the long term, they find themselves stuck in this cycle of failures. And you see this a lot with people who they would jump from job to job to job to job in their careers. And they always, as they jump from job to job, they're always blaming the company, the person they work with, their boss, on why they're leaving. But they can never seem to find the job that they like. Same thing for relationships. They go from relationship to relationship to relationship, always failing, but never realizing that it's them that's failing, but they always blame it on other people because they never look within first. And a lot of you might say here that you do this, that you look within and you worked on yourself, but this is the difference between leadership by words and leadership by actions. Because when you actually look within and really look within, and not just say that you look within, you actually look within, there's no way that you will leave a relationship out of anger, out of blame, out of this bitterness, because the act of looking within is always a very humbling experience. You know, there's a couple of realizations I think that a lot of my clients have that really humbles them down really, really quickly. And it's a realization, first of all, that, you know, you are asking your partner to stay with you, to choose you, to be with you for the rest of their life. That is a massive ask. And so don't get offended. If, let's say, your partner is questioning and second guessing herself, do I really want to spend the rest of my life with this person? But the one and only life that I possess, the one and only life that I can ever live, do I really want to spend it with this person? And so if the answer is no, either they express this through an affair, through being non-committal to you, to wanting to divorce you, you cannot get offended by this. You cannot feel bitter by this. You cannot feel angered by this. And that realization alone is massive in itself. And a lot of you may look at that example and say again, but Jeff, like, it doesn't matter if I made mistakes or not. I want to be with someone who can actually communicate about the problems. Well then, instead of blaming your partner again, look within and ask yourself, well, did you actually do a good job of creating a culture of safety again? Did you actually make it easy for her to talk to you about her problems? Because if this is how you are currently taking her true expressions to, let's say, divorce, to separate, to telling you how unhappy she is, to telling you about her affair, if this is how you respond right now, then it should be no mystery why your partner couldn't tell you in the first place. Because you're making it extremely hard for her to feel safe to express stuff to you. So I want you to see here how this can infiltrate on multiple levels, this either victim or leadership mindset, and how the leadership mindset will always lead you towards a lot more humility and a lot more clarity and a lot less anger, a lot less bitterness as well. And so if you're giving up out of blame, out of anger right now, it's a very, very good sign usually that you're still operating from this victim mindset and you're not really moving towards the leader mindset. And this leadership mindset is something you need to learn either now or later. If you ever want to have a happy relationship, a thriving relationship now or later, you better learn this as soon as possible. Now, the last question to ask yourself is really, are you giving up because you're thinking that your partner or your relationship cannot change? And here you need to understand a couple of things. You need to understand that in a relationship, there's something called a feedback loop. And this feedback loop is happening right now as we speak, whether you know it or not, where your partner does something bad, her doing something bad makes you do something bad, and you doing something bad in return makes her do something bad. And this is how your relationship is breaking down right now. So whether you're aware of the existence of feedback loops or not, it's already governing your relationship. And right now it's governing your relationship in a negative way. And so if the feedback loop can go down like this, the goal is to build your awareness of the existence of it and try to break the negative loops and start more positive loops as well. And the best way to start positive loops is by changing environments and changing culture. And time again, we always hear about studies of how important environments are and culture is to changing someone's behavior. And if you know these two concepts, And if you're leaving because you think your partner cannot change, think about the undercurrent ways that you're changing the culture in your relationship in a negative way when you do this. And it's the reason why your partner wants to leave in the first place. Because again, here you're basically saying, I have no ability to lead this relationship, to break the negative feedback loops and to start positive ones. I have no idea how to create a good culture in a relationship. I'm going to blame this on you, on your character instead. And because I blame you, I'm not going to have any faith that you can change or this relationship can ever change. Well, if that's the culture you're creating, it's going to demotivate your partner to change at all. And your fear and your belief that your partner cannot change now becomes a very self-fulfilling prophecy. And this happens a lot to a lot of people as well. So this is something that you need to consider very heavily before you give up. What undercurrent message are you actually giving in your relationship here? You're robbing yourself of the higher outcome too. And we always talk about this where, for a lot of my clients, when they take the program, they're actually very surprised once they understand the right process as to how much their partner's behavior can change. And I can put some stories here next to me. And if you want to see more evidence of this, feel free to look at any of my client stories who, all of them start off by saying like, I logically believe that my partner can change, but I don't emotionally believe that until they actually see their partner's behaviors changing, see and witness all their partner's toxic behavior going away. That they believe that I actually have a lot of power to actually change my relationship, change my partner. And so you're robbing yourself of this higher outcome when you give up too early, too prematurely like this. And when you give up right now, you will never understand what it means to actually lead a relationship, because leaders never really blame character like this. Leaders believe in people's potential. And they not only believe in people's potential, but they also understand the mechanisms, the process of how to create the right culture to bring the best out of people as well. And that's what good leaders do. And that's something you have to learn either now or later if you ever want a thriving relationship. Just to wrap this up, I told you basically all the 5 questions to ask yourself before you give up. And I'm not trying to make a decision for you, but I'm just trying to allow you to see the pros and cons and all the angles behind your decision here before you make and you pull that trigger. Now, the next question then becomes, so when is it a good idea to move on? To me, there's only one moment when you should move on. When it's actually safe for you to say, I call it quits. I want to focus on a new relationship. And again, the underlying and the overarching goal here is that I don't want you to waste the pain. You're going through a very difficult moment right now. This moment is telling you to learn something from it and to grow. It's allowing you to grow. Now, what is always wise to do is use this pain and difficult moment that you're having right now and really understand how to grow beyond what you thought was possible. So to do that, you have to be humble and you have to learn well beyond what you know. And the goal here is to understand the right principles and the right process to become essentially an irreplaceable version of yourself. Someone who's not just better or good, but becoming the best version of yourself, the absolute best version of yourself in the correct ways. And this feeling of understanding the right principles and the right processes is going to be very obvious to you. Again, I always give you this ice cube analogy where, let's say in this middle of the room, you have this giant ice cube and you're trying to melt it and you are trying to melt it with this hairdryer. Now, let's say the room is negative 10 degrees Celsius, which is 10 below freezing. So you plug in the hairdryer, you start to slowly heat up the room. Slowly the room becomes negative 10, negative 9, negative 8, and so on. But it's not past melting point yet. So while you're doing this hairdryer and heating up the room, you're not seeing any manifestations of this ice melting. You're seeing nothing, but you will still keep going. Why is that? Because you understand the principles behind how heat works, how ice melts, etc. And so you're driven by your confidence in your understanding of the principles. And your confidence in your understanding of the principles, that conviction you have is so strong that even though you're not seeing any manifestations of this ice melting, you're going to keep going anyway because you know it will eventually happen. And this is the conviction that a lot of my clients eventually feel when you find the right process, when you find the right principles and understanding as well. And this is really when you get to level 3 of that 3 levels of success that we talked about, where you achieve successful success, where you can get the outcome, but also know exactly how to manufacture that outcome over and over again. And when you get to this point, you can't lose really, because there's only 2 outcomes now. Either the first outcome is that you start to change your behaviors and you are very shocked at how much your partner's behavior changes as well. And this is happening to the majority of my clients. They fall into this first category. Now, the second category is that you might realize through this growth that you two may not be the perfect fit. But again, you're not going to be leaving out of anger. You're not going to be leaving out of bitterness, out of hate. You're going to be leaving very calmly. Because again, you know that this is no longer your fight to lose. So if you take this route of really working on yourself first, you cannot lose. But if you give up prematurely and you blame and you leave out of bitterness, you leave in the wrong moments, you can't really get into these two categories. And if you want more evidence of what I'm saying here, I would encourage you to take a look at my client stories. A lot of my client stories are of people in very, very dire situations and who see incredible things, incredible changes in their relationship when they just change their own approach and their own way of approaching the relationship as well. So I'm going to put the link above my head here, also down below this video, for a link to my client stories. And if you want to understand the process that all my clients have used to really gain massive success in their relationships, in their life as well, you can join me in my free masterclass on the 5 proven steps to rebuilding your relationship from the ground up. In that masterclass, I'll show you the exact steps and process that all my clients have used to really get them to where they are today. And at the end of this masterclass, if you want to submit your application for the Relationship Survival Program, you can do so at the end of this masterclass as well. So if you want to join that masterclass, click the link above my head or also down below this video as well. And also, if you want a guide to help you understand how to guide conversations better, you can click the link above my head or also down below this video. And finally, if you want to join a community where you can post your questions and have a member of my team answer them for you, you can also join me in my free Facebook group down below this video. For now, give this video a like if you found this valuable, and if you have a comment, just leave them down below. I would love to hear from you. Now, I'll leave you those 2 other videos with more skills and knowledge to be able to allow you to design a thriving relationship. In the meantime, though, I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.